Hello and welcome to the Last Edit podcast. I am Citizen Sleeve and this is my sublime film friend.
Silver Hawkins.
For those who don't know, this is a weekly film podcast where Silver and I alternate between film choices and then we have a bit of a natter about it for you lovely folks at home. Now, this week was my choice, and for once, I chose a film that was released 2 weeks ago, which is shocking. It's a film that Silver showed me a trailer for that I completely forgot existed until I was scrolling through Netflix, and I really bloody enjoyed it for a lot of reasons we shall discuss. And that film is Dolemite Is My Name by Craig Brewer for Netflix, starring Eddie Murphy as Rudy Ray Moore. And yeah, I really liked it, Silver. I it's so fun. It's such a fun film, I think, and that's one of the main things.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know what to expect, and as I said to you, I'd never heard of Rudy Ray Moore, and I'm a huge hip hop fan, and a lot of the stuff he produced, the vinyl stuff, influenced a plethora of massively influential hip hop artists. So this was like a minor education for me, which is great. I love that stuff. Now it's very much a typical biopic. Greg Brewer, I have never seen any of his films. The one I know of, I think, is called Hustle and Flow. This is very much a not in the same kind of vein as a disaster artist or what have you, but it's a biopic in that sense. It's a biopic which is semi loosely based on Rudy Ray Moore. There's a lot of added elements as you'd expect in a Hollywood film, and the actual film they're making in the film, as it were, the Dolomite movie, is a conglomerate of two movies that he made. I forget the other one. I did a bit of research prior to the podcast, as I often do, especially for this one, which I knew nothing about. I think you certainly knew more than I did.
I mean, it's also a
So,
biopic that it focuses on just this one specific period or event of his life.
yeah, it's a very it's a narrow view, as it were, that like
Yeah.
this very important section of his life. And well, let's go through a real quick kind of background and story. The narrative is what you'd expect. It's a down and out guy who's trying to find their way and trying to break down the gates that are the gatekeepers, which are stopping him from doing the cool things he wants to do. So we have Eddie Murphy playing Rudy Ray Moore, who is this comedian, but things aren't going very well. He's not very well thought of. He works in a club. Prior to acts, he'll announce them and he tries to do his comedy routines. And he comes across this homeless guy who has this very brutal and vulgar way of telling stories, a very comedic way. And he starts adopting this. In fact, he goes back and sees this homeless person and gets him to tell him stories with a lot of his friends. And he kind of adopts this style and creates this character called Dolomite.
It has to be said that style is sort of the legacy of African American slaves, just like singing would be. This would be some of the that was some of the how they passed the time, was like making limericks and stuff like that, and trying to like one up each other. Basically, kind of rap battles
Of their time,
their
yeah.
time. Yeah, and that's basically the legacy of that. That's then carried on by these older gentlemen who have become homeless, and also
Yeah,
find themselves with like time to pass and stuff.
yeah, and they're bouncing off one another and lyrically are so interesting as well. And so he adopts this style, and first of all, at the club he's working at, he's not doing very well, but he does this routine, and everyone's laughing. And the club owner's looking around, going, "What's happening here?" Because he's never seen this kind of material before. And it just kind of develops. He starts releasing records and vinyls that start selling out everywhere. He starts going to different clubs. The character Dolomite becomes very, very well known and is almost the originator, or is the originator of this particular type of comedy rap, comedy music, as it were. And then we just get his life as he goes on this mission, this single-minded mission to make a movie. Now, lots of stuff happens in between. We'll talk about, but I just really liked it, and it's got such a good cast. It's got such a good cast. Wesley Snipes plays Derville Martin, I think the character's name is, and he's bloody good in it. Craig Ferguson is in it.
No,
Let
Craig
me just have
Ferguson
a look.
isn't in it.
Craig
Is he?
Robinson, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Keegan-Michael Key is in it of Key and Peele. Mike Epps is very good, Titan Burgess, and then Davine Joy Randolph plays Lady Reed, Queen Bee. And to a point, they're all bloody good. Even if they're one-note characters, which I think Wesley Snipes is to some extent, they're still really bloody good. And I had so much fun watching this film. It just cheered me up, you know? And that's what a lot of the best uplifting Hollywood biopics do. But this does it in like, I don't know Rudy Ray Moore. I don't know how accurate Eddie Murphy was. To me, he was just Eddie Murphy being very good again. You know? Like
Right.
the last 10 years, we haven't really seen. I think his last movie was 2016. I think it was called The Churches or something like that. And we discussed prior. He's had he's had secondary parts in things or bits in things, but not really since Bowfinger have I seen Eddie Murphy being Eddie Murphy. And in Bowfinger, really, like Steve Martin was there as well. So this is like, to me, it felt like a return to form of Eddie Murphy doing what Eddie Murphy does well. Raunchy, vulgar comedy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, the movie just reminded me in a lot of ways about Bowfinger, actually, where you also have this sort of passionate filmmaker trying to get a movie made on a budget, like on a shoestring budget. And they were quite similar in that way. But yeah, I agree with you. It's very breezy fun. It's a great film. It just and yeah, the cast is really, really stellar. Like Wesley Snipes is really solid. I don't know that I agree that his character is necessarily one note, because he does get a scene later on where he basically helps Rudy.
I guess there is character development there.
Yeah, where he isn't just like the prissy, where he shows a side of himself that isn't like the prissy narcissist or however you want to characterize him. But yeah, it's a really fun movie for like showing how they made like particular scenes, like some of the most famous scenes from the Dolemite movie.
The one by the car, that fight scene. Oh man,
how they made the infamous album cover for his initial album, where he's naked with a woman, basically.
Across that chair.
Yeah, across the sofa or the divan or what.
Divan, yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's fun. It's breezy fun. Like it's over before you really notice it, because there's not.
Yeah, I very much felt that. Yeah.
And you're just it's a fun ride throughout.
Yeah, and it's nothing special in its direction. You know, it's a very standard. Well, no, there are some cool flares there, but and the way they recreated some of the scenes from the original Dolomite movie and the other movie they reference.
I mean the production design is stellar. Like
really, really good.
Really good on the 1970s brown, because the 70s just could not get enough brown.
Brown and orange.
Yeah,
they're my defining colours of. They're just everything: wallpaper, decor, any lamps, whatever you could get. And and some of the sets are actually really, really well designed as well to reflect the way they were. Just the way that as you said, that it's not an overly long film, but it breezes by so quickly when you look back at it, and there's so many fun moments. The moment when he first gets the record deal, the moment when he makes the deal to sign over his records to the company so they'll fund the movie, when he first meets Lady Reed and she performs her stand-up, and then later on they do that little musical number together and bounce off each other, which is really, really cool. And the actress who plays Queen Bee, Lady Reed, is very, very good in this. She's, this downtrodden woman who's always looked down upon because of her size and these other things, these other issues, and she just becomes like the wing woman, and does it beautifully well in combination with Rudy Ray Moore. It's one of those lovely films which is about a maverick filmmaker. What it does differently from, say, Disaster Artist.
Passions, yeah.
Exactly, and just really wanting to get there and not letting anything get in your way. What it does differently, say, from the Disaster Artist. Disaster Artist is almost mocking Tommy Wiseau in many ways. And it's also a lot more dour and a lot less exciting and a bit more an observance of the weird Whereas this isn't that. This is a fun, engaging character, let alone film. The environments, the
Well, I
music.
mean, the movie is basically a love letter, and that comes across pretty clearly, I think. I
Yeah.
mean, this has been a passion project of Eddie Murphy for over 10 years. Like he tried it even back in the early 2000s. He talked to Rudy Ray Moore about wanting to make a biographical film about him, and Rudy Ray Moore's reply to Eddie Murphy was, "Well, no, let's just go on tour together, you and me." Um, and and yeah, and I think that really comes across because it's a labor of love, and that comes across, I think, in every like frame and every single scene, because it's something that I think Eddie Murphy has sort of imbued to the rest of the cast, that it's made
Mm.
with love. And yeah, it just comes across like the movie is authentic in its portrayal, even if it isn't necessarily true. It is authentic in where it comes from. It has a heart, and
Yeah, it's committed. Yeah.
there are moments in it that are genuinely moving, like when Queen Bee at towards the end of the movie says thank you to Rudy Ray Moore for putting her in the movie.
Mm.
That's a genuinely touching scene, and it's made so because the movie has successfully built up their relationships through scenes like the one in the comedy club, and the ones where or I don't think it was probably a comedy club, just the club or wherever they were performing, and because the movie has built up their relationship to that point with their initial meeting, and then the professional relationship and such, and the fact that like he calls her in the middle of like towards the end of the evening to sort of talk about his fears and anxieties and so forth, and confide in her, that
Yes.
she is his confidant in the same way that he is hers in a lot of ways. And
Mm.
it's just, yeah, that's a really really touching moment because of that build up. And I think
Yeah.
that character development is really well done by the script and by the actors.
Oh, the performances are, I mean, they're just great. I mean, the moment in the club. We should back up a little bit. Um, so Rudy Ray Moore has got these records out. He's becoming really popular in the locale where he lives, and he wants to make a movie. He wants to bring Dolemite to the big screen. This is his dream, and so he goes to the record company and he basically signs over his records as collateral against this movie, and it's great when he like first meets Keenan, who plays the writer. I can't remember the writer's name now.
Yeah,
And he's this
playwright.
playwright, yeah, who's this very quite serious playwright. He goes to watch one of his plays. He's quite a serious playwright, and he, he's got him twisted around his little finger within about half an hour or an hour or something. And just the way like they're sat in that room trying to flesh out this script, and he's trying to be really serious about the tone and the message he wants to say, and then Rudy Ray Moore will just throw in these things that you've got to have and fulfill these really cool things, would just make it more comedic and funnier. And at every point in the film where he's stopped in some way, like when he meets Wesley Snipes, first of all, DeVille Martin in the club, and he spots him because he's playing this kind of famous blaxploitation actor. He's like, "Oh man, we could get him in the film. He could direct the film. How cool would that be?" And he just gets brushed off. He's like, "I don't know who the hell you are. Do you know I am Derville Martin? Do you know who I am?" And the way he plays it, he's so sarcastic and narcissistic, and I really like Wesley Snipes in this movie.
No,
He's,
I
he's
mean
done a
he's great
few
in
other
it.
he's done a
He's
few other
brilliant.
roles which are very cool and comedic roles.
And
But this
especially
is
because in this movie he largely plays against like what has been frequently been his type. I think.
yeah, oh yes,
I
yeah.
I mean I think he's played prissy characters before, if I remember right, but I just can't remember a specific character at the moment.
He's played a
But
couple of comedic roles. Yeah,
I
there
don't
was.
even mean comedic necessarily, but prissy. Like this,
Oh yeah,
like Derville Martin in this movie is like this really prissy guy, like very effeminate and such. Yeah, which is a really really interesting out of type role for Wesley, who usually is Blade, the Demolition Man.
Demolition Man. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Um,
House of the Rising Sun with Sean Connery. All those
yeah,
kind of
that too. Yeah,
harder, more
action movies,
more
yeah,
typical action
hero kind of,
hero-y.
yeah.
Yeah, the very, very obvious archetype of what that character usually is. Um, there's some great moments in this film. There's some great moments. That fight scene outside the house by the cars or the car
Yeah, the kung fu scene.
is
Yeah.
absolutely hilarious. It's hilarious. The fact he doesn't know karate and he's pretending. And by the end of the movie, by the way, they're all practicing this fake karate to put in the movie. It's brilliant. But that one scene where they're doing the fake fight, and everyone's like, I don't know if are they connected? Can you? And he calls him over. They've got some young runners and some young lighting
Film
and DP
students.
guys, film students, who the writer knows, and he just leans over and goes, hey, is there any way you could shoot this where it might look like it might possibly be remotely real? No. Just no. Straight up. It's brilliant. And they go through the motions of doing this weird fight scene where he's pushing them around and he's pretending to do karate. And at the very end, he turns to the director, who's Martin, of course. And Martin just goes, we won't do any more. It's fine. Brilliant.
Yeah, and that was as
Absolutely
good as
brilliant.
Shaft, right?
I was going to Shaft, right? Yeah, there's some good lines in this film as well. There really are, especially from Rudy Ray Moore, obviously. I like the way the film. When they get to their location, they've got the hotel. They've got this dilapidated hotel that he's managed to bungle his way into for not much money by pretending to be the caretaker, and they start. They haven't got power, and
Yeah,
they
no
need
electricity,
all these
yeah.
obstacles.
No running water either.
No running water. Yeah, it's just the way they get past those obstacles and the funny. I mean, there's the one point where he's properly running out of money now, and they need a bit more money to get the film finished, and then he's sat with his principal friends who've been helping him throughout at the diner. And everything so far has been fine. And he's like, I'm not paying for your meals anymore.
But
Do you know how much this is costing? My God.
That's after the movie is done, when they can't get it released.
Oh, they're trying to get it screened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
It's just
no
such a-
theaters will take it and show it, or rather, no studios will distribute it.
And that's really funny as well. It's there's two funny DJs in this film. Well, one less said than the other. Well, the first one is Snoop Dogg, who plays in at a local shop who won't play his records, and even when he can, he plays the wrong record, the older one, which was crap,
Yeah.
which is fun. And then we have Chris Rock as another radio DJ who is interviewing Rudy Ray as Dolemite, and he doesn't know how to. He asks him, "Look, when's the movie coming out?" And he said, "I don't know. I can't tell you." And then he takes him outside of the booth and says, "Man, this is the one thing I need to know. This is why we're here, to sell your movie." And he's like, I don't know how to distribute it, dude. No one will take the movie." He's like, "My cousin happens to own a movie theater and might just make you a little deal." And so for like $500, I think it is, where he's like, "What do you mean?" He said, "You can make money if you get people in here." And they go on this mass marketing campaign. You know, he's in the car driving around the streets.
Yeah, that is the one thing. Well, not the one thing, because he's not without talent. I mean, his delivery in the limericks and like the lyrics of his performance is really good. But that is one thing he really knows, is promotion.
Self-promotion,
really
yeah. And what I found really cool about the character as well is there are moments in the film. There's one bit where he's talking about ego. He's not in it for the ego. He's in it to make this movie. He wants everyone to be involved in making this movie.
Well, he kind of is, because the main reason he wants it done is so that the world knows his name.
Oh yeah,
So
and he
it
can
is.
be a star.
Yeah. So it is
But it's not so
ego-driven in that sense.
Oh yeah, but it's not so cut and dry. That there's that development
No,
there.
yeah.
And as you said, we see those moments. These characters are not one-dimensional for the most part. In fact, for almost all of the part, and they have depth, and it's really interesting to see. It's just at the whole end, I just love when it finally gets screened, and the crowd is full. Everyone in the neighborhood is there. Everyone's heard about Dolemite, and they should see it. And there's 3 viewings, and each one is just sold out. Everyone's buzzing about it, and Rudy Ray Moore, because people have been waiting for so long in the earlier showing, decides, do you know what? I'm going to go and be Dolemite. to this awaiting crowd before they
Yeah, I
even
mean
go and see the film.
there's a massive line of people outside the movie theater, and
Mm.
they're there for the next couple of performances that are going to be showing beyond what Rudy is there for. So they're going to be showing like 3 hours after, and then 3 hours again, and these people will be standing in line throughout that.
Yeah.
And so instead of going into to the movie screening that he is really there for, Rudy then goes out to the crowd to entertain them while they wait for their screening to show. And he specifically goes back to a kid who is like his diehard fan, and
Yeah.
basically gives him his pimping cane.
Yeah, he spits some cool lyrics at him, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh man," and gives him his cane. The kid is made up. Such a really good. I love films that are about. I mean, obviously, I love filmmaking, so do you, and we often like films about filmmaking. What this film is great at is about the guerrilla or maverick nature of trying to make an indie film, especially in that era, and it captures it wonderfully well. And this is a film will remember, and I'll remember moments of it because there's not a moment in this film where if I wasn't supposed to laugh, I didn't. I mean, I just laughed all the way through it. And yes, there were moments of gravitas, there were moments that weren't comedic, but I came out of this film with such a huge smile. It's not a film I'll forget, and it just puts you in such a good mood. Me, anyway.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is very much a feel-good movie, but it's without any of the like the schmaltziness.
Saccharine sweets.
Yeah,
Mm.
that usually or not usually, but that often accompanies feel-good movies. Like it's perfectly balanced, I think, and because of that, those moments where it feels good or ring that much more true.
Well, you care about the characters, as you said.
Yeah,
It's
you're invested.
so important in a film like this that you don't feel detached from the characters, that you have an investment in them. And as we've talked about, the central relationship throughout this film for me is Ruby Ray Moore and Queen Bee. They're the spine, but then there are so many wonderful characters that surround them that you also care about, that you're also invested in, because they're all on this journey together in different ways. And yeah, I really hope people watch this. I really hope they get into it and enjoy Eddie Murphy's real return to form. What a great character for him to play.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he'd be trying to get this made for so long, and you can see why. You can see why. Because his stand-up, his real true comedy, is not dissimilar. It's got
No,
that
yeah.
rawness to it, and it is really reflected. Now, again, I don't know if it's a truly accurate. We know it's a combination of a couple of films that were made, not just the Dolemite one, and a few other things, and there'll be embellishments there. And how much of it is Eddie Murphy, and how much is a representation of Ruby Ray Moore. But I don't care. It's such a good, entertaining film, and Eddie Murphy absolutely rocks in this. He really does.
Yeah, I mean he often does, and yeah, it's great to see him come back. Like he's an actor that I think a lot of us who grew up in the 80s and 90s grew up with and grew up loving
Beverly
the
Hills
movies
Cop.
he made.
The first Beverly Hills Cop, I just, I get that happy 80s vibe. And I loved Coming to America. There's so many amazing, and I'm really looking forward to that now, the sequel,
Right.
because I've heard some of the cast, including Wesley Snipes, are in that film as well. So it'll be interesting. It'll be a different vibe, different type of comedy. But I'm ready for more
Arsenio
Eddie
back,
Murphy.
actually.
Hey,
Arsenio, is he back gonna come back for that?
I'm not sure. Haven't read that yet. I'll
Right.
have to check. But it'll be interesting if he is. That would be pretty cool as well. But yeah, I highly recommended. Highly recommended. It's on Netflix. It's not difficult to find. Most people have Netflix. It's easy to. It's a breeze to watch, and it'll put you in such a bloody good mood for the rest of the day or the evening. It really will.
Yeah, absolutely recommended. And it's an easy watch on Netflix. Thankfully.
Yeah, very thankfully, given some of our obscure choices. All right, so that has been Dolemite Is My Name. Fantastic film, quite frankly. Really, really fun. So, Silver, what will we be discussing next week?
We will be discussing a movie that you and I haven't seen, so that's going to be interesting. And that will be a second movie of a director whose films we've talked about, which is Ari Folman, who made Waltz with Bashir, and this is his movie The Congress, starring Robin Wright.
Oh, interesting. Now, obviously, we'll end very soon. But is it an animated feature or is it a live
It's
action?
both. It's live action and animated, and it is. It's a pick because today we see increasingly, especially with the new Terminator movie, Dark Fate, with increasing use of deep fakes in movies and movie making, and the Congress is sort of a really interesting indictment of Hollywood and the potential application of that, where Robin Wright basically plays herself, but she gets a contract from a movie studio to go in and get herself captured, like her final performance.
Right.
Because her son is sick, so she needs the money. So she goes in with her agent and gets a contract for her final performance, where she goes in to get completely captured, like all of her complete emotional spectrum, everything on her body and everything, and then she leaves, and then the movie studio then get the right to use her likeness, like their digital version of Robin Wright, in whatever product placement or movie that they want. So she basically sells a version of herself to the movie studio.
That's very weird. You should. Okay, so I didn't know the premise. Now you've explained it. Did you read today that a new film is coming out where they are digitally recreating James Dean, and a lot of actors are up in arms about it?
No, but I mean, it's not the first time. Or
oh no,
no. I mean, even we had like I remember a couple of years back, like 10 years back, maybe there was a hologram version of Frank Sinatra, or something to that effect, that basically went on tour.
Yeah, I think even prior to that, the very first one I remember was Steve McQueen in a car advert. They brought him back and they'd taken bits from Bullet and augmented it and that kind of stuff. Okay, anyway, we're getting ahead ourselves. We'll talk bunches about this stuff in the next podcast. Right, thank you very much for watching and listening as ever. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Anchor, iTunes, all these places that you might want to take a gander at us. Talk to us in the comments. Have you seen Dolemite? What did you think of it? Do you think this is a return to form for Eddie Murphy? Are you now looking forward to more Eddie Murphy in the near future?
And have you seen the original Dolemite movie?
Have you seen the original movies? Yes. I think he made 7, was it? 6 or 7 in the end? One Dolemite. No, 2 Dolemite. There's Dolemite, Shaolin Dolemite as well. Again, a little bit of research prior. Yeah. Yeah, I think they made 7 movies in total. So thank you for watching. Talk to us in the comments. That is what we're here for. We are here to talk film.
Take care.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.